So we have covered a lot of ground during this lecture, and I just wanted to come back to these features of complex and complicated contexts for us to have a little rethink of what we talked about in the beginning of these videos. So first, go through some of the system characteristics. We mentioned the interdependent components with emergent outcomes. So this interaction dominant causality with the emergence, so increasing the scope and changing and new things come up, versus this component dominant causality, where we have the isolated components and linearly predictable outcomes. We had the nonlinear relationships, and this also includes feedback loops where there's a virtuous cycle or a vicious cycle where things are interconnected or in a dynamic way. So there's a nonlinear coupling that amplifies or dampens some feature of the system. And we talked about the linear relationships, and in this case, the causality is usually like more like one way, so almost like this billiard ball metaphor, where you strike one ball and it strikes another, and you can sort of predict what's going to happen. We didn't talk that much about the agentic self-determination, but what this means is that the components of these complex systems in complex contexts are reacting and adapting. So the people adapt to what their neighbors do, and their neighbors adapt to what their neighbors do, and so forth, which creates this emergent structure of societal phenomena, for example. Versus in the complicated context, you have this hierarchical command and control structure where you can just tell people to do stuff and they will comply. In the problem-solving part, in the complex context, we need to embrace the uncertainty and embrace diversity and use it to our benefit instead of trying to get rid of it, because we can't. We need to adapt and continuously learn and do sort of novel and different things. Versus in the complicated context, we need to focus on what we know and sort of make sure that we are staying in control. In an evolutionary way of creating solutions, you foster this innovation and test it iteratively. So you try it out, you change it, you try it out, you change it. Or what's better is that you don't really come up with the solution, but there is a system or a process that comes up with these solutions, and the system also weeds the bad ones out, and the good ones amplifies the good ones. We'll talk about that next week. And in the complicated context, you can actually just decompose the problem into parts, analyze what the parts do, what problems they have, and then figure out the solutions and implement those solutions separately without having to mind too much the related parts or their interconnection. In the complex context, we really need to anticipate what's going to come towards us and manage risk. We're going to talk about that also next week, and cultivate these diverse initiatives, because evolution needs diversity in order to select the most opportune factors or features or solutions. And in complicated context, you rather rely on some very well-made plans. because the context doesn't change too much, so you don't have to worry about it. So both of these places have different tastes and flavors and different impositions on what to do in order to survive in them. And there are, of course, many ways to see this, uh, uh, perceive this complexity and the whole idea of it. One that's presented by Scott E. Page, who also has a course that's on YouTube actually nowadays. So it's if you Google the great courses, Scott E. Page, you will probably find it. But so if you want to check it out, there's a short description of what his idea um, of how to describe complexity is. And if you want to think about complexity in behavior change domain, we had a couple of years ago, we had this symposium where I mentioned that Daniel Proverbio was also one speaker about critical transitions and how systems change their state. And there are a lot of talks about networks and such that might also interest you, and also from the policymaking perspective. And just to finish off by saying that it's not that this all stuff is somehow new and completely novel. It's that we had Heraclitus telling us to not step in that we can't step in the same river twice, and Buddha has been talking about how things exist in us, these streams of dependently arising phenomena endlessly interacting. And so these are sort of descriptions of the same thing, and or that's at least how I view them. And but next week we're going to talk a little bit about. So this week has been a bit abstract and theoretical. Next week we're going to talk more about what do we actually do in this complex context. Thank you for your attention.